huh? Wait for that sun to come up. It's definitely getting chilly out. I could feel fall slowly creeping in, and that is, for me, kind of one of those times I like to work hides. I don't mind doing it when it's warm, but when it's cooler out, I'm not in a rush. I'm not battling any intense temperatures that could potentially spoil a hide or rot anything on it. So I always like to save a lot of hides for fall, which coincides with hunting season as well. I have a deer hide just sitting over there. I'm gonna make some stone scrapers and show you kind of how a stone scraper works on a hide. More importantly, that, you know, with a lot of conventional hide tanning, putting, you know, hides on fleshing beams and fleshing them and then putting them up in big frames, the whole kind of collective of what I would like to call, you know, modern hide tanning, we're going to take a step back. We're going to go 15, 20, maybe even 30,000 years ago and show you how hides were prepared in that tanning process. So I've chosen a number of stone flakes that I'm going to use to turn into a handful of scrapers. And all of these kind of have different purposes. The one thing I want to avoid when crafting a scraper is I really want to try to eliminate these can't eat this one. I really want to back up. It's not food. I really want to eliminate super razor sharp edges. That has a tendency to kind of cut the hide, and I'm looking more or less to put an edge on here of pressure flaking that's going to give me some durability, but more importantly, it's going to give me the ability to really scrape at the hide without the fear of cutting it. The scrapers that, you know, I've crafted in the past, they kind of eventually take a bell shape. They kind of take this, you know, pointed end or a rounded end, and it kind of comes to like a little bit of a swoop. You'll see a couple once I make them. And then this big flake here, I'm going to turn into that flake from one of the oldest hide scrapers found in North America. That really pushes the date back of the peopling of the North American continent. It's a scraper that they recovered with some animal bones and other various stone tools, but that one scraper shows that people were here in the Americas around 18,000 years ago scraping hides for clothing, you know, pouches, whatever the case may be. So we'll turn this guy into that, and we'll craft a couple other ones. If I need more, I got a little piece of Pedernales chert with me. Hand pads, a couple of braiders, small hammer stones, my caribou pressure flaker, and a couple antler tines. Now I've seen a lot of people talk about scrapers, finding tools that could be a scraper, and I always tell people, if you think something's a scraper, make it, replicate it, and then scrape a hide with it, because there's a big popularity with thumb scrapers, something about the size of your thumb. Now, I've got pretty big hands, and my thumb is about the size of most people's toes. They're large toes, but imagine scraping an entire hide with something that big. There are some small scrapers that have been found in different archaeological recoveries, but you have to think of the practicality of something super small on a large hide. Doesn't make sense in my mind. Doesn't mean it wasn't used, but what I think a lot of people sometimes find as thumb scrapers are actually just pieces of debitage, a flake like this that's just been popped off. What would make something a scraper is if that edge has been worked to scrape. If the flake has a raw edge the whole way around like this guy does, yeah, you could scrape with it, but you're going to wind up sacrificing some of that hide to cuts. When you compare it to something like this guy, that I've just quickly worked that edge down to give myself a scraping edge, that makes more sense. So we can't confuse debitage, which are the little pieces that come off a large piece of stone, as a scraper. A scraper is a tool with purpose. It has intent. It's designed to scrape hair, fat, membrane, all that sort of material off a hide. You can see this edge right there. That's going to be good for scraping. I'm going to try and get a nice little edge right up in here. I can tell you one thing, I've been hearing lots of squirrels. I'm coming back here with Finn, and we are going to do some squirrel hunting. Picking a scraper, I'm sticking to one side of the stone. I'm not alternating, I'm not flipping. I'm sticking to one side of the stone. All those little pieces that I come off are creating this round side so I can hold it and scrape that hide. I want to avoid any kind of wave to that edge. I want to avoid anything that looks like teeth that could pose a problem when it comes to scraping. Because that could cut my hide. There we go. There's that front edge. This will definitely scrape well. So that's 2. There, right there. And there we go. That's that edge. You can see it. Oh, there's the sun. Warm me up. Right there. Nice and big in the hand. That's definitely something I'd want to use to scrape a hide. I've got my scraping tools, pressure flaker, the whole 9 yards, and I've been scraped many hides. One of the things that I'm looking to do is keep some tension on the hide so I can really get into this and start scraping it. So I'm going to use my knees to kind of hold the hide in place, and I want a flat surface, whether it's flat ground, some sort of rock. It allows me to hold it with my knee, stretch the hide, and start scraping off any of the membrane or fat. Now, the one way to avoid a lot of complexity when you're hide scraping is to skin the animal out the best you can. Avoid getting lots of meat and fat on it. That's going to save you some time. And there's just scraping. You're always going to be pulling off little bits of fat. Finn's probably going to eat some. And hold, tension. Scraper's also kind of serving as a cutting tool as well. I mean, as you're pulling off membrane, you're using multiple things. Using your hands, using the scraping tool, using the tension. Get that membrane off. See right here, I'm just scraping all of this fat right off this hide. I want to get it kind of bone white. right down to the edge. Don't get me wrong, a fleshing beam and a fleshing knife makes all the difference, but we use hide scrapers like this for hundreds and thousands of years. All right, let's try this little guy. Oh yeah. You hear all the pine cones dropping? I also imagine ancient peoples would probably sit just as I am, put the hide over their knee, and just start scraping. kind of let the hide weight kind of pull, and you keep a little tension. You can see, get some good results. So I'm going to keep scraping. This will take a little while, especially with, you know, stone tools. The point is this: the scraper is one of those tools we've been using since really the dawn of time, and it was effective. As you can see, I'm scraping this hide. Probably take me all day, but it will get the job done. If you take any stone tool kit, hand axes, knives, projectile points, and you incorporate scrapers in there, you can see the versatility. You can see the you know, the importance it has. I mean, as I've been working on this hide for probably an hour now, it might take another 3 or 4 hours, but you can see how important this tool was. After a hunt, remove that meat from that animal, take that hide, turn it into clothing, kept them warm, kept them safe from the elements. But that's just a couple hide scrapers. They're pretty easy to craft, very easy to resharpen, more importantly put that working edge on there and get into action actually scraping a hide. So I'm going to sit around for the next couple hours, finish this guy, wait for the sun to come up, and I'll use this hide in a future video and show you how to actually preserve it. Appreciate you all watching, and keep roaming, and I'll see you in the bush. Thanks.